Weekly reflection from Salisbury Cathedral. I'm the Canon Chancellor, Edward Probert. Welcome to my study here. The composer William Walton's had quite a few outings a couple of weeks ago because he wrote a piece of music for the coronation of George VI, the Queen's father, back in the 1930s, called Crown Imperial. And that's one of those pieces that organists and musicians seem to dig out for grand occasions, such as this recent Jubilee, of course. So, in fact, I did hear that piece in the background of events I was at or was watching quite a few times in recent weeks. But as it happens, I've also been rather alert to the composer William Walton because at the moment I'm part of a choir and we are currently learning for performance this piece here, which is an anthem of his called The 12, as you could see there. Not one, I have to say, that until we started looking at this for our forthcoming performances, I was even remotely aware of. It was written 30 odd years after Crown Imperial, much later in his life, and it sets a text by the poet, the renowned poet, W.H. Auden. And you can tell the complexity, it seems to me, of a piece of choral music when you look at the hired-in copies, such as this one, which is quite battered. And you can tell how complex it is by the amount of rubbing out you have to do on all the parts of the singers. I spent about half an hour rubbing the pencil marks from this copy before I could even make head or tail of it. People have had to annotate it furiously in the past, and unfortunately they seem to have annotated pretty much every musical line. Pages were absolutely covered with pencil because it takes some getting to grips with. And I have to say, I've never heard this piece performed live. So I've had to work at it, and I'm still working at it, which is why it's rather on my mind at the moment. But this is one of those pieces which has been rather a pleasant discovery for me, perhaps less so for the music than for the text, this Auden text. And it's that which I'm actually going to talk about, because it's I'm going substantially to devote this second part of what I say here to reading that poem out. It's set out, obviously it's set out along with the music because it has to be sung to the music, but it's set out first on the page here, and it's in 4 parts, as you can see. Well, actually it's in 3 parts, isn't it? Sorry. The first in 2 halves, a short staccato bit, and then the longer passage, and then the shorter staccato bit again, and then the longer passage again. Now, it's a rather complex text, and it takes some rereading, which is why I want to read it to you. But it's also an interestingly constructed piece, because although it doesn't follow the obvious pattern of most verse forms of classical style, it actually is full of things like internal rhymes and wordplay, and it follows through a number of different moods. The purpose of this poem, and indeed this anthem, is to provide as it says on the cover, an anthem for the feast of any apostle, which is why, of course, it's called the 12 apostles of Jesus, those who were sent out to spread the word of the good news of the resurrection, the new life in Jesus Christ. I'm going to read it to you, but I want to point out to you that in amongst all the complexity and the perplexity that arises in this text, it focuses on two very simple human emotional things. One right at the beginning, at the end of the first paragraph, and one right at the end in the last phrase. And those are remarkably powerful in the light of the complexity of what precedes them and intervenes between them. And those words are joy and merry noise. Joy comes at the beginning of the work, and merry noise is how it finishes. Much that comes between would not suggest either joy or merry noise. But I read it to you because I think this is actually a rather fine piece of work by Auden, and also it leaves us with that fantastic sense of rejoicing in what God has done for us, has done through other people, and has reached us, and the ways in which we can spread that ourselves. We ourselves can be enlisted in this project, which is no longer the work of the 12, but is the work of our lives, that we live them with a merry noise. So here we go, The 12 by W.H. Auden. Without arms or charm of culture, persons of no importance, from an unimportant province, they did as the Spirit bid, went forth into a joyless world of swords and rhetoric to bring it joy. When they heard the word, some demurred, some mocked, some were shocked. But many were stirred, and the word spread. Lives long dead were quickened to life. The sick were healed by the truth revealed. Released into peace from the gin of old sin, men forgot themselves in the glory of the story told by the 12. Then the dark Lord, adored by this world, perceived the threat of the light to his might. From his throne he spoke to his own. The loud crowd, the sedate engines of state, were moved by his will to kill. It was done. One by one they were caught, tortured, and slain. O Lord my God, though I forsake thee, forsake me not, but guide me as I walk through the valley of mistrust, and let the cry of my disbelieving absence come unto thee, thou who declared unto Moses, I shall be there. Children play about the ancestral graves, for the dead no longer walk. Excellent still in their splendour are the antique statues, but can do neither good nor evil. Beautiful still are the starry heavens, but our fate is not written there. Holy still is speech, but there is no sacred tongue. The truth may be told in all. 12 as the winds and the months are those who taught us these things. Envisaging each in an oval glory, let us praise them all with a merry noise. Good afternoon.